Hello, everyone. I just wanted to create a video to give some more guidance on the legislative writing assignment. I want to draw your attention back to week 2, which we're currently in, and let you know that the legislative writing assignment instructions and grading rubric is at the top of this week 2 block of the course. And also the letter template that you'll be actually filling in to create your letter is also here at the top of the week 2 block. Under a heading called resources for the legislative writing assignment, there's a page which I urge you to read. It has some good suggestions about how to prepare for this and how to do this assignment. There are some links to different legislative websites. Once you figure out who the person is that you need to address your letter to, which representative, which senator, etc., these links may be helpful in finding their mailing addresses. There are resources here to avoid plagiarism, to avoid using others' content and writing too similarly to that original content. There are resources on APA formatting, scholarly writing, a link to the Writing Center at App State, link to the librarians, and then finally a link to evaluating internet resources so that you're sure to find credible resources for your writing assignment. So if we go into the legislative writing assignment instructions and grading rubric, the aim of this assignment is for you to write a well-researched letter to the legislator addressing a health-related piece of legislation, that has some impact on nursing, healthcare. And it could be considered either at the state level or the federal level. And you've already been working on looking at the pieces of legislation that we have listed. You should be submitting your selection of a piece of legislation by next week, next Tuesday, 9/2 by 1 p.m. And once you've picked out that piece of legislation, you can begin or continue your search for literature. This is a scaffolded assignment. So it has many components that you can see here, each of which counts points towards the total. So the legislation selection I just mentioned. You also have been working on and should have submitted you should submit the searching for the evidence worksheet by next Tuesday as well, 1 p.m. These other components we'll talk about as we go through the course. You will have an opportunity to do a rough draft, and then you'll get feedback and then meaningfully rewrite that draft using the feedback to produce your final letter. And once the final letter is ready, we will have you bring a hard copy of the letter to class. You'll sign the letter, you'll fold it, you'll put it in an envelope, and then you'll address the envelope to the person you're sending it to. There are several paragraphs that will be required in the letter. I'll just go ahead and show you the template. You can just download and save this template to your desktop, and you can start filling it in. Obviously, you can take out this heading legislative letter. You don't want that in your letter. You'll just fill in your name before the App State nursing student, your address, etc. The date of the letter will be the date that it's due. Recipient name, this is going to depend on who you determine is the person you really should send the letter to. It may be one of your state representatives or senators, federal representatives or senators, or it may be someone who is not one of your representatives or senator, but who is the chair of a committee where the piece of legislation is currently being considered. Once you determine the person that you should send it to be most effective, you can use some of those links to the legislative sites to learn their job title, their office address, etc. So you can see in the template that we have a greeting, we have an introductory paragraph, a background paragraph, an argument paragraph, and a conclusion paragraph, and then your signature. You will be required to cite sources. Remember, we talked about there are going to be 4 sources required for this letter, a minimum. 2 should be scholarly or peer-reviewed articles published within the last 5 years, and the other 2 should be credible websites. So you'll need to cite these sources in the background in the argument paragraphs. Then you'll create a separate page for reference entries. In the instructions, writing assignment instructions document, there's more detailed information about what to include in those paragraphs. So the introduction paragraph has specific components that should be included. You need to engage your audience's interest in the issue raised by the piece of legislation, showing why it is both problematic for and significant to nursing and why you are personally invested in it. This paragraph should also introduce who you are, primarily an App State nursing student, and provide a context for your letter. The second paragraph, which is the background paragraph, should include a discussion of all important background information related to the issue that is the subject of the piece of legislation you've selected. So these are just some ideas about what kinds of things should be included. The importance of the issue, relevance to nursing, the history of the issue, the causes of the issue, how the issue affects individuals and populations, and any statistics that are pertinent to the issue. The third paragraph will present your argument for or against the piece of legislation with supporting evidence. And then you'll need to provide a brief discussion of at least one alternate position that's different from your position. And then finally, in the conclusion, you'll summarize your purpose for writing the letter, thank the legislator for reading the letter, and then you must provide a specific request. The grading rubric here is divided into several components. You'll be graded in terms of the content in your introduction and background paragraphs, the quality of your ideas and arguments, use of evidence. So that's where the citing the 2 scholarly sources and the 2 credible websites comes in. Organization and clarity, length of paper and APA formatting. The length of the letter really should be 2 pages. So 1 page for the letter and 1 page for the references. And the writing style and quality will be evaluated. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, you'll be turning in a rough draft. So your instructor will give you feedback on your rough draft. And if you show meaningful incorporation of that feedback in your final draft, you'll get a higher grade on that component. And briefly, I think that's everything I wanted to say about the legislative writing assignment. I just wanted to briefly mention for week 3, it is open now. And there will be some in-class activities that show up when we arrive in our individual classroom for you to work on that are going to reinforce the learning on APA formatting. And the homework that's due the following week is showing as well on this page for those of you that like to work ahead. And we'll discuss, for example, we'll discuss this W's assignment during next week's class. This last assignment, nursing roles that interest you, this is simply, you're just going to click into this link and you're going to type in nursing roles that most interest you. Try to prioritize your top 2. And what we're going to try to do is look at all the different nursing roles students are interested in and do our best to try to find nurses who can be on our nursing panels later in the semester who match the interests of students. All right, well, I hope that you have a great end to your week and a nice, relaxing long weekend. And I will see you in class next Tuesday, 9 to 1 p.m. in room 228.